There is a moment in that clip where every single person watching does the exact same thing. They lean forward, they squint, and they genuinely try to work out what their eyes just showed them. Performers tilting at a 45-degree angle with no ropes, no wires, no support structure of any kind, just their bodies refusing to follow the rule that the rest of humanity has been following since we learned to stand upright. That moment is the most accurate summary of Michael Jackson's entire career. Not the record sales, not the stage setups. Just that, a man making your brain tell you that what you are seeing cannot be real, and then doing it again in front of 50,000 people. But the more you look at how he actually built this legacy, the rehearsal footage, the years of obsessive preparation that audiences never saw, the more unsettling it gets. None of it was natural. None of it happened by accident, and the gap between how effortless it looked and how brutally hard it actually was is bigger than most people ever realize. That lean has a mechanical explanation. Hidden anchor points built into the stage floor, and shoes with a specially designed heel slot that locked directly into those anchors. That is how the illusion works on paper. But here is what that explanation quietly leaves out. The technology holds your feet in place. Everything from the ankle upward, your shins, knees, hips, entire core still has to generate enough force to sustain that position without collapsing. Researchers who later studied the biomechanics found that the demand on the lower back and abdominal muscles during that lean exceeds what most trained athletes can maintain for more than a few seconds. He held it like it cost him nothing. And then, because doing it once inside a controlled film set was apparently not enough, he adapted it for live stadiums, on stage floors he had never rehearsed on before, where one misalignment meant falling forward on your face in front of 50,000 people. The precision required to pull that off every night is not a talent you are born with. It is built through repetition so relentless that your body stops having to think about it, and that obsession is the thread that runs through everything else in this video. On February 25th, 1983, during the Motown 25 television special, Michael Jackson performed the Moonwalk for the first time on live television. The sequence lasted 47 seconds. 47 seconds that made millions of people watching at home question whether what they had just seen was physically possible. What most people never knew was that he did not invent it. The backslide had existed for years inside the underground popping and boogaloo dance communities in Los Angeles, performed by street dancers far from any mainstream audience. What he did was study those dancers, absorb the technique completely, and then present it to hundreds of millions of people simultaneously on live television. He took something from a subculture and turned it into a planetary moment in 47 seconds. And then backstage, right after the performance the entire world was talking about, he was disappointed in himself. He had missed his toe stand landing and felt the whole thing had fallen short. It took a direct phone call from Fred Astaire, calling specifically to tell him it was extraordinary, before he believed the performance had actually worked. A performance that stunned an entire planet still did not fully satisfy him. The version in his head was always better, and that gap is exactly what drove every rehearsal that followed.
Out of singing, wait.
Nobody makes a 14-minute music video. That is a short film that happens to have a song in it, and Thriller did not just justify that length. It used every second to build something that had genuinely never existed in popular music before. The track was engineered to feel like a haunted house you could dance to. The synthesizer melodies were designed to sit just outside the comfort zone of what your ear expects. The sound effects came directly from horror films. Vincent Price's spoken passage was written to sound like something that had escaped from a nightmare. None of that is accidental. Every element was placed to create an atmosphere you physically enter, not just a song you hear, and the choreography matched it. The zombie movements look chaotic on the surface, but every single performer in that graveyard is hitting the exact same count at the exact same moment. Asymmetrical and unsettling on top, mechanically precise underneath. That combination, the appearance of chaos controlled by invisible discipline, is one of the hardest things to rehearse and one of the most powerful things to watch. Decades later, it is still being studied in choreography programs. By 1987, Michael Jackson had sold more than 65 million copies of Thriller, and his image was almost universally warm and unthreatening. Bad was a deliberate decision to replace that image with something harder and more confrontational, and the choreography announced the change before a single lyric was heard. Martin Scorsese directed the short film inside a New York subway confrontation that played like a territorial standoff. The choreography reflected it exactly: fast footwork, sharp arm hits, formations that communicated aggression rather than entertainment. The posture alone was different, heavier, more deliberate, more loaded. Every gesture in that video said the same thing. The easy, accessible version of this artist is gone. Dirty Diana the same year pushed it further, a full hard rock track built around the psychological trap of fame, with Steve Stevens on guitar, giving it a weight that belonged nowhere near a pop record. Some critics misread it completely. Most eventually came around. What both songs together established was an artist willing to trade universal accessibility for something that felt more honest. That trade defined everything that came after. In the mid-1990s, Michael Jackson made a short film that ran nearly 40 minutes and featured one of the most technically demanding sequences in music video history. Most people have never seen it. The ones who have remember one moment above everything else.
Girl! Does that scare you? Is this scary?
Early motion capture technology transferred his real dance movements onto a CGI skeleton. Every stomp, every spin, every body isolation preserved exactly, just relocated into bones with no flesh attached. For the transfer to work, the choreography had to be performed with enough precision that every joint angle and weight shift read clearly through the capture system. The result was a skeleton moving with more physical authority than most human performers ever achieve. Sharp stomps that feel like they shake the walls. Body isolations that look like something claiming territory. The character is made of pixels, and somehow it is more present than most things you will see on a real stage.
Michael Jackson undergoes some frightening transformations in Ghosts.
The playful Michael Jackson that audiences had watched since the early 1970s was completely gone. What replaced it was something that felt genuinely dangerous and completely in control of that danger at the same time. That specific combination cannot be manufactured. Either it comes out of the performance, or it does not. The Bad Tour ran for 16 months across 15 countries, played 123 shows, and drew more than 5 million people through stadium gates. At Wembley alone, 7 consecutive sold-out nights brought in over 500,000 attendees. Box office revenue hit $125 million, the highest-grossing tour of the entire decade. Behind those numbers was a preparation process that most touring artists would consider unreasonable. He arrived at empty arenas hours before scheduled rehearsals. Not minutes, hours. Drilling individual gestures and isolated vocal cues alone before the full cast ever walked in. Every night was designed to feel like an event that had never happened before, even when the same show was being performed 5 nights a week in a different city. That is what permanently changed what live entertainment was expected to be.
Michael, all right? She can't believe it.
In 2009, Preparations were underway for a 50-date residency at the O2 Arena in London. The tickets had sold out in hours. The cameras rolling in the rehearsal space were there for production reference only, to help the crew review staging and cues. Nobody intended for that footage to ever be seen by an audience.
Right here, right here, right here. Okay, no second burns. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
Then he died on June 25, 2009, and that footage became something nobody had planned for, the final record of a performer still working, still refining, still chasing the version of the show that existed in his head and had not yet made it to the stage. What is strange watching it now is how ordinary it looks. Not a legend performing for cameras, just someone in rehearsal clothes stopping mid-sequence to ask for the count again, trying a transition a different way, having a quiet conversation with a dancer about the specific feeling a moment is supposed to carry. The same obsessive precision that built every performance you have ever seen, still running at full speed with no audience to perform it for. The concerts never happened. But those rooms, those thousands of hours in empty spaces, the obsessive drilling of gestures that nobody outside the production would ever see, that is where everything came from. Every performance that stunned an entire generation was built there first, in silence, with no spotlight on it, long before any audience was ever allowed in the room. The stages and the costumes gave you something to watch. The rehearsal rooms are the reason you could not look away.